Welcome to the official catch-up. Today we are back discussing the East of Scotland. It's myself, Chris, and I'm joined once again by Kevin Marshall. How are you doing, Kev?
I'm good, Chris, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Obviously, it's great to be talking about football again and another episode of the East of Scotland. I'm looking forward to it and looking forward to obviously chatting to you as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I didn't really see very much of the streams at all at the East of Scotland, but I've had a good look at the scores, so it certainly looks like there were a few good games yesterday.
Certainly, we kind of mentioned it in the sort of last podcast that we did, or the first podcast we did, I should say. There was a lot of shock results, but from what we saw midweek and at the weekend, there was probably less shocks and more of the same. What we kind of come to expect with some of the teams in the East of Scotland.
I think normal service has resumed, I suppose, in terms of results.
Yeah. It's just getting straight into the Premier Division fixtures. We'll start with Broxburn Athletic against Newton Grange Star. They were streaming for the first time. I think it went well, which is brilliant, obviously, because having been involved in streaming over the last sort of week myself, I know how difficult it can be to get the audio right and the video right. So well done to the people at Broxburn Athletic. Great to see them streaming, giving the East of Scotland a wee bit better coverage.
I've noticed a few clubs are doing it now, and I've noticed one or two of them have had a few teething troubles, but you always expect that. I mean, we probably don't always have the best Wi-Fi coverage and things like that, but at least the clubs are doing everything they can for the fans just now.
Yeah, it's good to see them putting in effort, and it's great. I mean, I've caught a couple East of Scotland streams, which I've been thankful for. Obviously, similar to yourself, I'm following the Lowland League as well, so it's sometimes difficult to see multiple games, but it's obviously great to see the streaming for the fans. But obviously they can't come in at the moment, so great. We'll get straight into the fixture, mate. It was 1-0 to Broxburn Athletic. 38 minutes, Gary Brass opened the scoring. Going into the second half, it was Cammy Ross who did end up getting man of the match for Broxburn. He scored the second on the 72nd minute. And Jordan Hopkinson, who I think we're not sure about yourself, Kev, but I know him fairly well. He's basically finished the scoring 3-0 Broxburn on the 86th minute. Standard sort of win, I would say, for Broxburn. It's probably expected over a Newton Grange Star, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. We said last week that Broxburn were one of the shocks on opening day, but that's 2 wins. I think they won in midweek against Camelin as well. So 2 wins, 2 clean sheets, back to what you would expect, and good for them to get their title challenge back on track.
Yeah, and as I kind of alluded to, it's good to see Jordan Hopkinson getting a goal in there as well. It's good. He's obviously been at Civil Service Strollers. Last season he was at Tynecastle, so it's good to see him back in the East of Scotland in the Premier Division.
And like I say, difficult for Newton Grange. I mean, they were always going to be second favourites in that game anyway. So, pretty routine result, I think, for Broxburn there. Moving
on to Camelin Juniors, who we mentioned it, who have also been streaming their games, I think, pretty much since the start of the season. So they're obviously making a go of it. They won 6-0 against Dunbar United. And I think this name sort of came up before on the last sort of podcast that we've done. They were 1-0 up within 1 minute of the game. It was Mark Stowe. He scored a second in 4 minutes, and he completed his hat-trick 41 minutes. I don't know if he got taken off at half-time, but he didn't add to that 3-0 at Camelin at half-time. They extended their lead just before the hour mark. Alan Docherty made it 4. 83rd minute, Camelin made it 5 through Alan Snedden, and just to round off the scoring on the 89th minute, Stephen Docherty basically completed it. But a good victory for Camelin Juniors, but obviously a bit of a rout for Dunbar United.
That's how you get off to a flyer, right? 2-0 up after 4 minutes. I think I'm right in saying that's Camelin's first win of the season, so obviously very early in the season, but that's the way to do it when you get your first win in a bit of style there, 6-0.
Yeah. Any worries for Dunbar? I think you'd probably expect maybe Dunbar to sort of, be at the lower end, trying to pick up results when they can.
With the greatest respect for them, I would expect them to be a kind of lower half of the table side, probably picking up a few results. But again, I don't think too many people would have fancied them to go to Camelin and get a result.
Crossgate's Primrose hosted Trinent Juniors. They opened the scoring on the 25th minute, and it was an own goal that got Trinent back into it. So it was, I think, 1-1 at half time. There was a sending off. Trinent did go down to 10 men. I'm not 100% sure when it was. I think that was maybe at 1-1. But Trinent did take the lead 76 on the second minute through Canio, I think his name is. We'll have to get caught. I'm bad with pronunciation if I don't know the guys, basically. But yeah, Trinent took the lead. It was Darren Aitken again for the equaliser for Primrose on the 75th minute. But Trinent did get the win. They claimed the win there on the 85th minute through Grigay. I think that's how you pronounce that. As I mentioned, a brilliant win from Trinent. It's been brilliant for Callum Elliott just taking over, but I was a wee bit surprised that they've been as good as they have at the start of the season.
Well, it's off to that perfect start, that 100% record. And, Crossgates is not an easy place to go. And it sounds like some game, the lead swinging back and forward there, and, a winner just a couple of minutes for the end. So, it sounds like a crack of a game. But I think they're only second to Lothian Thistle on goal difference just now, Trinent. So, perfect start for them.
Yep, and moving into Lothian Thistle, Hutchie Vale, they've also had the perfect start to begin with. They were away to Dundonald Bluebell. They won 2-0. It was a brace on 56th minute and the 84th minute. But again, I would maybe suggest another sort of shock. I actually really do like Lothian Thistle, Hutchie Vale, and we've kind of talked them up a wee bit on the last podcast. But I wouldn't have really suggested that they would have had a perfect start similar to Trinent.
Well, no, I mean, I've got that on my notes as well. I don't think there would have been too many people outside of Saughton would have given them that start to the season. All three on the road as well, 3 away games and 3 wins. So maybe we need to start taking them seriously a wee bit now. Like I said before, they were the side to beat in that league a few seasons ago, and albeit it's a very different looking league now. But I remember Kelty's first season in the East of Scotland, and Vale pushed them all the way to the last day of the season. So they're obviously a side that know how to go the distance as well. So maybe we just we need to stop writing them off.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they have a decent balance. Obviously, we kind of mentioned it with the sort of focus on youth, but they've also got some experienced players there as well.
And they've maybe no played. Well, I suppose they did at the start of the first game of the season. Maybe no played any of the title favourites yet, but that kind of win or that kind of record at the start of the season is a good way of building confidence and getting the points on the board.
Hillabeef Hawthorn were hosting Blackburn United. The Hawes took the lead 15 minutes in through Joe Kinnenmouth, and they extended their lead on the 33rd minute through Lyle Callaghan. Blackburn United did get what would only be a consolation on the 54th minute. Decent win for the Hawes, especially at home.
It is, a wee bit like Roxburn, kind of shock on the first day of the season, and we said they needed to start getting the wins to get themselves back on track. So 2 wins in a week. Good to see Lyle Callaghan getting himself on the score sheet a few times now. I think he scored for the penalty spot midweek as well. But that's exactly what you would expect from for Hillabeef. We're all expecting them to be one of the title contenders, so they've got themselves back on track again.
And staying in Fife, Inverkeven Hillfield Swifts hosted Pennycook Athletic. Just a wee bit of a side note for Pennycook Athletic, it was the club captain Aaron Somerville's 150 appearance for the Cookie. Obviously a great way to sort of celebrate that with a 3-0 away win. Pennycook opened the scoring on the 7th minute, a ball over the top by Thompson for Jamie Devlin, who holds off a defender and tucks it under the keeper for his first goal for the Cookie. Just after 46 minutes, it was a perfect start to the second half as Paul Tansey does excellently. Down the left, driving in a low cross, which Jamie Devlin pokes home for his second and Pennycook's second. And the game was pretty much set around the hour mark, 59th minute. A ball through the Swiss defence is latched onto by Joe Viola, who beats a man and fires it past the keeper for the third. An excellent win for Pennycook Athletic. It's good to see Jamie Devlin, getting a couple there for Pennycook. He's a decent forward. I know he can sort of play wide as well, but I kind of rate Jamie. I think I've mentioned it on the Lowland League Catchup, certainly, that I've got a funny story about Jamie Devlin, but it's not one for sharing, unfortunately. But I really do like Jamie, and it's good to see him scoring.
You'll need to stop teasing us with that one, Chris. Either tell us it or stop mentioning it. No, you're right. I agree. I mean, I don't think he really got... we really saw the best of him when he was at Kelty. I saw him last season. I think he was at Trinent last season.
Yeah.
And I saw him a couple of times, and he was always one of the players he always looks lively, always... in the box, he's one of the players that you always expect to pop up with a goal. So, good to see him. Good to see him on the score sheet, and a good win for Pennycook there.
Yep, and as I say, it's not one for sharing, and I will stop going on it. But I don't even think Jamie even probably remembers it. It's something I certainly thought was funny, and one of those sort of interactions in football that you get. But we'll move on swiftly. Speaking of swiftly, no pun intended, Jeanfield Swifts played Whitehill Welfare, and it was a bit of a I think we talked about in the last podcast, Kev, about the amount of goals, certainly in the conferences. It was a wee bit like this in the Premier Division this week. Jeanfield beat Whitehill Welfare 6-3. Mark Smith hat-trick, Chris Dodd was on the score sheet again, Conor McLaren penalty, and Scott Smith for Jeanfield Swifts. For Whitehill Welfare, it was Keith Lau, he got a brace, and Tyler O'Neill for Whitehill Welfare. And it was actually... the first goal was scored by Keith Lau on the 32nd minute, so it did take this game a wee bit to warm up. But as soon as it got going, it seemed to be a bit of a back and forth. Really, there was a couple of sending offs. Fraser Smith got sent off for Pennycook and Welfare. Tyler Rogan was sent off for Welfare, and I believe that was it was a denying a goal scoring opportunity, and that's when Conor McLaren scored the penalty. But more goals from Jeanfield.
I think that's 2 weeks in a row they've scored 6, so I need to get a wee trip up to Perth hopefully soon. And I mean, as you know, it's one of the places I like to go whenever I can, obviously restrictions permitting, and I did kind of think about Chancellor and see if I could get in there yesterday. I'm kind of glad I didn't. I might have had the RSI of the trigger finger, having to shoot 9 goals and 2 red cards.
Yeah, it's certainly exciting. I mean, ideally, I'm sure the managers of both teams will be, a bit raging in terms of their defenders, but you can't complain. It's scoring 6 and 3 respectively. Obviously, it's a tough one for Whitehill. I think Whitehill. I noticed obviously Keith Lau got a brace there. He's a player that I really like actually. I think he's a decent. I think he was given the captaincy at the start of the season. He's very good. I'm actually surprised that Bonnie Rigg Rose never kept a hold of him, to be honest.
Absolutely. I think, I can't remember, I saw Whitehill some point before lockdown there, and I'm sure Keith was playing for them then. But he's one of these players, he's got loads of experience, and he's got an eye for goal. So, tough start for Whitehill, and it might be one of the seasons where they just need to pick up points where they can. But I'm sure on another day, scoring 3 goals, they would get the points.
Yeah. And moving on from a 6-3 to a 5-3, Musselburgh Athletic beat Tynecastle 5-3. The scorers for the Bra were Matthew King, Dean Ballantyne, Nathan Evans, and a brace from Brian Martin. Unfortunately, I didn't see any goal scorers for Tynecastle. I'm not sure if that player last week is trying to claim free this week again, but...
Well, if you're not going to publish your scores, then your players can claim anything they like, I suppose.
By default, he might just be top scorer of the East of Scotland this year.
No, I was just going to say, again, that's a another solid result for Musselburgh. I don't think they had a midweek game, so...
I was just going to touch on that Tynecastle thing, now that it's mentioned. I mean, Jordan Hopkinson and Jordan Smith, were quite high in the goals last season. I wonder if that plays any part, Kev.
Possibly, yeah. Maybe that's what it is. If the side doesn't publish their scorers on the social media, then you can just claim them. That's it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. Jordan Smith, it has to be checked, but I'm sure he scored 40 odd last season in the east of Scotland. So same again for one of the Tynecastle. I think it may have to get looked into.
We'll demand a recount.
And moving on to our division fixture, it was Socky Juniors hosting Linlithgow Rose. They drew 1-1. The Rose picked up their first win midweek, but again, more drop points, Kev.
I mean, they've not a bad start to the season, but for a side of their standing, I think they would be expecting a wee bit more. They certainly didn't want to lose touch with the sides at the top of the table because you get that gap. It's a lot to make up. Still early doors, but I would certainly be keen to stay in touching distance if I was a Rose fan. And
on the back of that, obviously, I think we mentioned it, but Lothian Thistle, Hutchie Vale are first and Trinent are second, just by goal difference. Both have won 3 games out of 3, which is obviously an excellent start for both clubs there. We'll move on, like we done last time, we'll just sort of go over the conference games, mate, and see if there's anything in terms of interesting results. So, First Division, Conference A, Arniston Rangers got beat by Haddington Athletic 5-1. That's a brilliant result for the high there, actually. Coldstream beat Dalkey Thistle 2-1. Dunny Pace were beat by Leaf Athletic 2-1. Edinburgh South beat St Andrews United 2-0. Edinburgh United won 1-0 against Kennyway Star Hearts. I believe there was I did see a sort of debatable penalty call. I don't know if you saw that on Twitter.
I never saw that, mate, no.
It looked like it could have been a penalty for Kennyway Star Hearts. To me, it's a difficult one because it looked like the defender had put out his arm, but it kind of hit off his shoulder, if that makes sense. So there's 2 ways of seeing that, but I think they maybe were a wee bit unlucky not to get a penalty in that game, Kennyway Star Hearts. Kirkcaldy and Dyser were beat 2-0 by Craig Royston. I think it's a really decent start to the season by Craig Royston, actually.
Yeah, it's aye.
Ormiston beat Rosyth 2-1 and Tweedmouth Rangers lost 5-0 to Thornton Hibs. And I believe that game was streamed because that was at Shieldfield Park. Obviously, it's kind of set up for Berwick, but a decent win for Thornton Hibs, especially going down to Tweedmouth.
Aye, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good win on the road. A couple of big scores in that division there as well. A 5-0, a 5-1. Plenty of goals.
Moving on to Conference B, Burnt Island Shipyard were beaten at home by Newborough Juniors 4-2. Eyemouth United were beaten 11-2 by Heriot Watt University. I've talked up a wee bit about Heriot Watt. I've kind of said it a few times that I do fancy them. Eyemouth look like it's going to be a struggle for them this season, Kev.
It sounds certainly like it. Aye, I mean that is a big score. 11 goals. That probably close on a record there. I would have thought 13 goals in one game. Yeah,
and I do believe Niall Kelly played quite well. I did see a wee status. I didn't, unfortunately, look too much into the goal scorers, but fair play to Niall. He was decent for Gala when he was there, and it's I think Heriot Watt have really brought got a decent team there, and one I'll probably continue to hype up if they're getting scorelines like that.
Well, I think the hype themselves. If you're scoring like that every week, then it's not necessarily hype. It's all justified, really, isn't it?
Yep. And another win for Canoe. They beat East House's Lily, who had a great result last week. But Canoe I think they play Spartans in the Soccer Shop Direct Challenge Cup on Friday. So that'll be an interesting game for Canoe.
It will be, aye. It certainly looks like they're shaping up to be contenders in that conference. So, aye, cup games always interesting.
A narrow defeat by Hawick Royal Albert. They were beaten away at Lochgelly Albert 3-2. Loughborough Welfare lost out to People's Rovers 5-2. Cloncurry, another win, 1-0 over Preston Athletic. Bit of a slow start from Preston, Kev.
As I think Cloncurry are newcomers into that division, into that conference as well. So, Preston were always one of those sides that were there or thereabouts. So, it's not the best start to the season for them.
Stirling University, I think they got the win. Obviously, East of Scotland team. I think they picked up the win midweek, but they were beaten by Oakley United at home for the final fixture of Conference B. Yeah, a few interesting results. I think we mentioned obviously, but the East of Scotland looking like certainly probably one of the better leagues to watch this season.
Certainly, Conference B looks like it's the place to be for goals.
Yeah. So we'll get into the next week's fixtures. We'll start on Wednesday, the 21st of October, Premier Division. Whitehill Welfare host Musselburgh Athletic. I believe this game was postponed. I can't remember what the reason was, if there was actually any reason at all. But Rosewell, one of my more favourite grounds at East of Scotland, I would say. But I think Musselburgh Athletic will be looking for the win away to Whitehill.
I would think so as well. We mentioned Whitehill and we mentioned that they've had a tough start, and I would expect that tough start to continue. Musselburgh seem to be on the crest of a wave just now, so I would expect that to be an away win. And
we alluded to it Friday's game, the Challenge Cup, or the Soccer Shop Direct Challenge Cup. Spartans host Canoe. Do you think Canoe have any chance against Spartans at Ainsley Park?
I don't know. I mean, they certainly seem to be buzzing. They're certainly scoring goals, but it's not an easy place to go for any side at that level. So, you're effectively jumping two tiers in the pyramid. So, if they can get a result there, they're doing really well.
Yeah. And moving on to Saturday's fixtures, Saturday the 24th of October, Blackburn United hosting Musselburgh Athletic. Obviously, Musselburgh have that sort of midweek game, so it could be a decent opportunity for Blackburn to maybe sort of test them. But just on paper, you would think Musselburgh would be looking for another away win.
I would think so. I mean, it has been a bit of a difficult start for Blackburn, and you would hope for their sake that they weren't going to be the whipping boys, but I can't see anything other than a Musselburgh win there.
Linlithgow Rose welcome another Fife team to Preston Field as they host Inverkeithing Hillfield Swifts. I tell you what, if the Hillfield Swifts got a result there, it would be fantastic, but you would expect Linlithgow Rose to go out and get the win there. They really, I don't think they can afford to drop too many points early on.
No, definitely. I mean, I think you would probably fancy them, but I wouldn't be too surprised if Hillfield Swifts were to get some in there. Maybe a draw. I think they would be happy with a draw there. So it's worth watching that game, I think.
And I think if there was to be a game of the week or a match of the week or something, I think this would be the one for me. Lothian Thistle Hutchie Vale versus Hillabeef Hawthorn. I think it's the first home game that Hutchie Vale have, and it'll be interesting to come up against a decent Hillabeef side. I would be there. I think if I could get to a game, I'd probably be at this one if I could go, Kev. But I'd probably expect a close game. But I really fancy Hutchie Vale just a wee bit ahead of Hillabeef.
I mean, you're right. This does look like probably game of the week. It'd be the one that you would want to go and see if you could. On form, Hutchie Vale, they've had a great start to the season. I've kind of stuck my neck out and said Hillabeef for the championship, so I've got to stick with them, I suppose. Probably just shade it, maybe 2-1, something like that.
Yeah, certainly I think it's going to be a close game, but I just feel in terms of the form, 3 away wins for Lothian Thistle. I think it is tough, obviously, being a Fifer going against the Fife team, I guess, but I think it will be close, Kev. I think you're absolutely spot on. Pennycook Athletic host Crossgates Primrose. I've actually been quite impressed with Crossgates Primrose, especially some of the results they've picked up. I think they've been very unlucky in some of the score lines, especially on Saturday there. But I do believe that Pennycook Athletic still have a bit of a strong squad, and I think we'll see them push. So at home, I'm going to go side with them, basically.
Well, I think Crossgates have done all right on the road. They've done better away than they have at home, I think, so far this season. So I'm going to go with a score draw there.
Tynecastle versus Dundonald Bluebell. I think it's a hard one to judge, actually, to be honest. Tynecastle seem like they're scoring a fair amount, and we know that Dundonald Bluebell can as well. I'm going to go with a draw on that and say that there'll probably be a few goals in it.
I think you're right. I think there will be a few goals. I've went with the Fifers all the way on the road next week. I don't know if that's heart ruling head or whatever. So I'm going to stick with the run, and I'm going to go for Dundonald just to squeak it.
Brilliant. And our final game on Saturday in the Premier Division, it's Whitehill Welfare hosting Camelin Juniors. Again, similar to my thoughts when they are hosting Musselburgh in midweek, I think it's going to be tough. I think Camelin, especially that Mark Stowe, I don't really know much about that player, but he seems to be in amongst the goals, so that's obviously a wee bit of a danger for Whitehill. I'm going to go with Camelin for that one.
Yeah, me too. I can't see life getting any easier for Whitehill just now. I mean, they have got, it's been a tough run of games for them, and I think it's just going to stay tough with.
Brilliant, mate. And again, it was obviously great to get through the fixtures and through the results there. We're unfortunately with East of Scotland, there's probably the information is not as available like the Lowland League. I think the way I look at the East of Scotland, Kevin, you might agree. I think sometimes the clubs, the Lowland League was probably like this about a couple of years ago until I started moaning at them for information. So our fans did certainly, but it's been brilliant covering it, and hopefully we'll get as many episodes throughout the season as this as possible if people enjoy listening in.
I hope so. I mean, in terms of the coverage, I've certainly seen quite a few of them that over the last week or two have been up in their game with streams and stuff like that. And I've also seen on the social media 2 or 3 of the clubs asking for volunteers. You and I both know how easy it is to get involved with these kind of clubs. If you've got a wee bit of tech savvy and you can help it, and you want to try and get yourself along to a game, then I'm sure the clubs will always be happy of a volunteer to come along and help out. So if you're sitting at home and you're thinking about it, then don't be shy. Get in touch with your local club, and I'm sure they would be delighted to have you along.
Yeah, and I know it's Crossgates Primrose. I mean, I quite fancied that gig as well. Had I not already sort of said to Cameron about helping Spartans, but yeah, if you're missing the football and you see these sort of things advertised, I would certainly suggest maybe if you've got the knowledge and the know-how, get involved. That's you obviously have to stick to the guidelines and stuff like that. So wear your face mask, wash your hands, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, certainly a decent way to maybe get involved and see football when you can at the moment.
I mean, every club, without exception, I think, are usually pretty welcoming. Everywhere you go, people are always really happy that you're there to provide some sort of coverage. It's obvious, it's easy for me because they see me with a big camera strapped around my neck. But I always think that the clubs are more than happy when somebody's willing to give up their time and try and help promote them without kind of sounding too disrespectful. A lot of the clubs are run by older guys who might not be as up on some of the tech as some of the young kids are. So if it's something that you're interested in and something that you fancy and you've got that knowledge, then definitely get in touch.
Yeah, I completely agree, Kev. And on the topic of promoting, where can people sort of find your blog and where you are, mate?
Well, I'm KM Photo. That's the website. It's also Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Pie and Bovril as well. Anywhere there's photographs and football talk, then that's where you'll find me.
Brilliant. And you can find me at Rampant FM on Twitter, and you can find the official Catchup at official Catchup, and also on Facebook, I think it's Lowland League Catchup, and pretty much everywhere. YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify. I think we're absolutely everywhere, Kev. I think it's good. Obviously, we do plugs, but I think people probably know where we are at the moment. It's been another great episode, obviously covering the east of Scotland. We'll as I mentioned, we'll try and do these as much as possible and give the league as much coverage as we can. We'd love to get more of the clubs involved. If there's people out there that maybe have a bit they know a bit about the east of Scotland, just give us a DM and we'll try and get you involved as well.
Absolutely, and if we have pronounced any of your surnames wrong, then we apologise. Don't be shy to get in touch and tell us how to say it right, so that when you do score next week, that we didn't embarrass ourselves.
And also, if there's nicknames as well, I've got a habit, especially on the lowland, because I know a few guys now. I sometimes resort to nicknames, which can lead to sort of frustrations, I guess. Some people are like, who the hell is such and such, and But it's great. It's obviously great that East of Scotland's got a bit more coverage. But as I say, we're hoping to expand that. And again, it goes back to the fact hopefully we can get to games soon, Kev. Absolutely.
At the end of the day, sitting here talking about it is good, and it's always good for a laugh and stuff like that. But there's nothing quite like getting to a game, being there, and getting to know some of the characters in person at the ground.
Absolutely. And on that note, thanks for listening. We appreciate all the support, especially on the first episode. I think I got about 400, 500 listens, which is great for a first episode. We appreciate, and we did get some really decent feedback from I don't think you'll mind me saying, but some of the managers and the players as well. So it's always great. It's what we sort of why we're doing it, basically. So until next time, we'll see you soon.
Cheers, bye.